This is Comfort Zone, a Mac Stories podcast all about putting the hosts, well, outside of their comfort zone. I'm Christopher Lawley. You might know me from websites such as YouTube. And with me every week is Matt Birchler. Matt, how are you doing?
Chris, I am doing so good, and I'm so terrified. I'm so happy with how the first episode went. Everyone has been super, super nice, and people seem to like it, and that's awesome. But I'm looking at our show notes right now, and the challenge for next week is redacted. I have no idea what it's going to be, and this is the amount of terror/joy that I think you're going to just expect from the show.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, this whole show is just about just pushing us to do wacky things. Also with us every week is Neeleon. Neeleon, how are you doing, and I guess we'll find out why your challenge is redacted a little later.
I don't know how that happened. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a bug. Today I'm going to talk about bugs. It's going to be fun, but I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is gonna be an interesting one. Like Matt said, thank you to everyone that listened to episode 1. The reception was amazing. We are so excited to be doing this show. We're so excited to be a part of Mac Stories. The reception was great, and I'm so excited just to do this show every week with the two of you and have the rest of you listen to it. So let's just dive right into it. Matt, I believe you are up first. What do you have for us this week?
Yeah, so this week I am bringing a web app, and to get the idea of what this is, I'm never going to start with just what I'm talking about. I'm always going to do context. The context of this is, you may have noticed a few weeks ago, Google rolled out their AI search answers to everyone. They started to roll them out to everyone. And I think, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think those have gone off pretty smoothly. There's been no real issues with
that went well.
Yeah.
I believe I'm supposed to be putting glue into my pizza cheese now.
Try it. It's great. I love it.
Pairs well with the rocks. It only makes sense. So what if there was a product that cost $20 a month and was just those AI answers? And that's what I tried for the last few weeks, an app called Perplexity. And people love Perplexity. I think of Perplexity as one of those apps, kind of like Obsidian or Arc browser or something like that, where the people who like it really, really like it and want to talk about it and evangelize for it. I don't think it's quite as big as those. Maybe it is, but if someone uses Perplexity, you will know because they will talk about it because they love it. So let me kind of explain what Perplexity is trying to do first, and then I'm really curious what you guys want to know about it. So the idea of Perplexity is it's kind of a new search engine. It's a box on a screen. You type in the thing you're looking for, and it generates a response for you, right? Arc Search does basically the same thing. I have complicated feelings about Arc Search. You can also upload files to it and ask it questions about those files. They have a voice interface, so you can kind of talk to it on their iOS and Android apps. And it's kind of a power user sort of service. You can just use it with its default settings, but if you want to go in, you can actually change whether it's using ChatGPT or Claude or Llama as its kind of LLM backend. You can choose, it does some image generation, so you can choose DALL-E or Stable Diffusion, or there's a third one I forget. But it's kind of like a power user search engine powered by an LLM. The idea is that you type in a thing, it does the Googling for you, as Google says. It loads the content from those sites, it feeds it into an LLM, and it spits out a couple paragraphs of text. So I'll give you some examples of what I've used it for and what I think about it. But how compelling is this to you guys? Is this an interesting thing? Is this a thing you're into, or not really?
I need some confusion cleared. I think, so I'm paying for Raycast AI, the Raycast Pro, whatever the subscription is called. And you can choose to use Perplexity for AI commands in it. So I'm confused. they have they don't have their own models, right?
They sort of do. They have something called Perplexity AI, I think they call it, and I believe that's built on top of Llama, so Meta's open
Mm,
source model. So I'm not sure how custom it is. Um,
okay.
but yeah, so they have their own model, which I don't use, and then they have the product, and I think those are separate things. So I'm guessing in Raycast, when you're selecting what model you want to use, you're using their model. You're not getting the full kind of Perplexity web search experience, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that would make sense. But apart from that, what you're describing as a product sounds like nightmarish to me. Um, feels like the worst part of it all. They're just keeping the worst part of it, right? Just the AI generated responses.
pretty pretty much. So yeah, so what I've used it for is I've tried to use it as a full search replacement, which
Yeah.
it sucks as, in my opinion.
Oh no.
So the reason it sucks is that everything with an LLM, even with the newest like GPT 4.0, which is quicker, it just takes longer than a normal search, right? If you're used to Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever, like you hit enter and within like a second you have responses, you have answers, and you can kind of click into them. With
Hmm.
this, it takes you like hit enter, you can see it using the LLM to like reformat your question into Google search results or search queries. It then sends those to Google to do the searches. It then pulls in the info. That takes like, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds. Then the LLM starts working, and that's another 10 to 30 seconds, depending on like how fast things are going right now, how complicated the question was. And so, like, it's taking like 30 seconds easily every time I do a search to
Oh wow.
see the
Okay.
answer, which is not great. So, I've asked it like a couple things that I thought it was actually pretty good at. So, we're recording this on Friday, June 7th, and Summer Game Fest is today at a certain point. I wanted to know when it was. So I just typed that into Perplexity, and it gave me the answer nicely, quickly, again, 30 seconds or whatever. And so it did a pretty good job there. I tried it on Google as well, and the first search result was Watch Summer Game Fest at 12 p.m. Central, which was exactly the answer and took 1 second. But anyway, Perplexity at least answered the question right. Um, but then I asked it some questions like, what are people saying about The Acolyte, the new Star Wars trailer or show? Um, for a challenge this week, I had to figure out how to put my DualSense controller into pairing mode so I could pair it with my iPad. And I asked it how to do that, and it gave me kind of step-by-step instructions. I asked it how to convert a JSX file to an HEIC file on my Mac. Apparently, JSX is like an HDR image format that Windows supports, but Mac doesn't. So I asked it all these questions, and it gave me these answers. The problems were it took a long time to answer again, so I wasn't getting the answer like right away. Um, I thought the answer to like what are people saying about the Acolyte were kind of helpful because it was like here's the good things people say, here's the middling things, here's the bad things, and I was like okay. And then out of curiosity, I was like, what are people saying about Dune Part 2? What are people saying about these other things that just came out? And the answers were like exactly the same things. So
Oh
it wasn't
no.
actually helpful. Um, like I have a pet peeve against like Rotten Tomatoes, like, oh, this movie's a 77%. And this was like even worse. This was like, well, some people say good things, some people say bad things. There's no nuance. Who knows? Um, so the answers weren't super helpful. And sometimes they were just wrong. Like on that question about how do I convert the image from one format to another, it said I can use preview on the Mac, or I can just right click it and run a shortcut. Or I could do like all these other things, but like none of those worked. Those were totally hallucinated and weren't real things you could do. So what I found was Perplexity does give you the search results. They're kind of hidden and they're minimized by default. Actually, not by default, just they are always minimized. You always have to expand to see them. So you can click into the links that it found, but at that point, you're just looking at an unsorted list of Google search results. And at that point, I don't know why I'm not just searching Google to get something reliable. So I think the problem for me was that the answers weren't reliable enough so that even when it gave me an answer that looked correct, I was still having to find the link where they got that info to like make sure that's actually the right answer. Um, which at that point it's not super useful.
Yeah, you don't trust it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and then Neilian, you mentioned the other thing. I just don't like this concept at all. As someone who makes things on the internet, I don't like the idea that they're like, hey, don't worry about browsing the internet. Don't worry about watching videos or listening to podcasts. We'll just do it for you and then give you a sentence or two about it that might or might not be right. Like, I don't like that. It feels like Napster to me. Um, like they're just stealing all of the value that's been created out there and then presenting it as their own. Um, and Napster, you know, I didn't use Napster because I didn't have a Windows computer at the time, but I understand why people did. The music industry was kind of a mess, and things evolved. We still have music, like people can still make some money doing it. But if this becomes popular, I think the internet will adapt and people will figure out ways to monetize the things they do. But I just really don't like the idea that they're effectively stealing everything and presenting it as their own and treating like browsing the web or learning things on your own as kind of silly things that we don't need to do anymore because we have robots. So that was another thing. I wasn't really planning on keeping this forever for that reason alone, but I wanted to try it out because people are very excited about it. And yeah, for me, it's not the right thing for me. I'm still going to stick with a traditional search engine, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Like the whole like AI, we're gonna gobble up the whole internet and then spit out results for you. Just feel gross, especially as somebody that makes a living. I mean, we all do. We all make money in some form from putting stuff on the internet, whether it's this podcast or blogs or YouTube stuff. Like a couple weeks ago, when the CTO of Chat of OpenAI couldn't answer the question of, oh, is chat gpt trained on YouTube videos, and was like, oh, I don't I mean, it absolutely is. It 100% is, and they're not going to
Yeah.
admit it because they know we could sue them and be like, yeah, you need to license our videos because we own the rights to those videos. It's just like, anytime somebody tries to download a YouTube video and re-upload it as their own, the original person on YouTube that uploaded that video has the rights to force them to take that video down. It is, if somebody uploads one of my videos and tries to monetize it as their own, I could be like, hey, YouTube, you need to take this video down because I own the rights to it. So they're going to always like try and be like until they get backed into a corner. Which, I mean, looking at like what's been happening the last couple of weeks, they have been getting backed into a corner. I'm just waiting for somebody to like put the proof out there that they are scraping YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that, because all of this stuff is based on RSS, which RSS is open. I love RSS as a user. I think it's great, but RSS is completely open, so it's super easy for them to scrape all of that stuff.
This is the double-edged sword of the open internet, right?
Yeah, it's like I love the open internet. I love the idea of the Fediverse and all this stuff, and like, hey, like all this stuff should work together, and it's great. Like, could you imagine if like we all had to have separate email accounts because only Gmail accounts can talk to Gmail accounts and only Yahoo accounts can talk to Yahoo accounts and so on and so on and stuff like that. But like, it's depressing to see like these companies come up, get billions and billions of dollars in funding and all the gross Silicon Valley, raising money stuff that kind of makes me feel really icky. And they're just, taking stuff from Mac Stories or my YouTube channel or Matt's blog or his YouTube channel or something like that. Like it's like, come on, like you're clearly stealing and benefiting from it. And the people that are actually making the stuff don't get anything.
And it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like Neilian, you said you have Raycast AI. I use Claude, the chatbot, on a pretty much daily basis. And like, I think that they're useful for things. Like, I'm routinely uploading PDFs and like text files into Claude and asking it questions and having it help me with things with the file. And that's super useful in me, like
That's
just
cool.
doing my job better. And that I don't feel like is stealing. I understand that it's built, like the whole technology is built on scraping the web and everything, but like, I don't feel like I'm taking the value away from anyone else when I do those sorts of things. It's really these search engines where like it or hate it, there's a good like the Google to the rest of the web relationship was really valuable because Google
Mhm.
had ads that they were able to run, and they were able to show all the things that were relevant to the people using Google to search. And then they showed like some of the information from those websites on their site, but people would click through and they would go to those sites. And so like the sites who made the content would get value from more people finding them. Google got value from running ads and being able to get people what they want with a good experience. But yeah, these AI only things really feel like it's taking all the value and putting it with them. When they're acting like a search engine and saying, who wants to actually see another website? We'll just do it for you. It's just a weird vibe to me. I don't like it.
It does feel like this is setting up for the lawsuit of the decade.
Mm-hmm. It's just like Napster versus Metallica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to set a precedent, maybe not in a direction that we like, but yeah.
We need the EU to to do something. They're the ones who
Only.
I'm going to mention the EU later, by the way.
Ooh. Yeah, only the EU can save us because that's how we got emulation, or game emulation on iOS. So
that's true. That's true.
yeah, firm. I've seen a couple of people. Oh, Apple was going to do it no matter what. I'm like, no, no.
Yeah, it's always they were going to do it. Obviously, right as regulation hit. Of course, we had it with like USB-C iPhones. Like we've seen it a few times. Just a coincidence.
Yeah, I have so many complicated feelings about AI stuff. I don't like the creative generated stuff, like the image and video generated stuff. That makes me feel icky because there are artists out there that do that. And plus, I don't think they look very good. Like they all look very shiny and like it looks fake to me. And well, obviously it looks fake because they'll be stylized, but it looks AI generated. And like, I don't like that look. I like the artwork for our show was hand drawn by an artist, and they did an amazing job with our artwork. Like, we absolutely love it. If we were to have AI do our artwork, it would not look like that. I can 100% guarantee that. I love our artwork for this show, and that was thanks to an artist. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I love the idea of like what Matt was saying, being able to upload PDFs and stuff like that, and like have it like spit out the summary of it and stuff like that, because I get a lot of PDF documents that are either like contracts that are full of legalese, or like reviewers guides or stuff like that are just full of fluff, and I would love to just be able to like, hey, give me the key points out of this, or give me the my actionable items out of a contract or something like that, and that would be really helpful. But yeah, I don't really want it to replace a search engine and me going to an actual website like Mac Stories, or Matt's website Birch Tree, or a YouTube video or something like that. Like, I don't want AI to replace that. I don't want AI to take the human out of the internet.
I disagree. No, I agree.
There you go. And the conversation is all over again.
Oh gosh, yeah. It'd be Neleon and me will team up against Matt.
No. So yeah, I apologize for bringing something deep and controversial into the episode.
I mean, it's important for us to get out of our comfort zone. So This week, I have an app for you guys. You may have seen it go around on the internet, but the timing of this app could not have been better. So this app is called Kino. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it is a super flexible, professional filming app for the iPhone. And I am really excited about this. So for years, anyone that's kind of like done like professional video or like recorded high-end video with an iPhone has always used Filmic. But a couple of years ago, Filmic Pro got sold off to a company. Let's just say it feels a little scamish now. Their default method for subscribing is now weekly, which I do not approve of. Yeah. You can fall into that trap. And I've seen a couple of people justify it, be like, oh, well, some people might only need this a couple of times a year. So that's good. But I'm like, maybe not make it the default, because a lot of people will assume it's monthly and just subscribe. And yeah, weekly, that adds up pretty quickly. It's not super expensive. I think it's only like $3 or $4. I probably should have written that down before, but it's still enough to like, that's not good to be a weekly subscription. Plus, it's just like the UI feels old now. It's very clunky. There was a bunch of, you guys remember back in, was it iPhone 10 keynote, where Apple brought Filmic on stage and said, oh, hey, you're going to be able to record with 2 lenses at once. And that feature never shipped. They actually ended up putting it in a separate app. Like that feature never actually shipped in
It never shipped?
As far as I know, I've never found it in the app. So I know they created a whole separate app to do the 2 lens recording at the same time. But anyways, my point is, Kino, indie app. It's made by the same people that make Halide. Great, and Orion, which is the app I'm using on my iPad right now to see the Mac Mini. They make some really great apps. Like, just the startup experience on this is amazing. This is a professional filming app, so it can do 4K, 60 frames per second, ProRes with Apple Log support. And if you have no idea what that I just said, just know that's very impressive, because that's basically what I am kind of doing with my Canon R5 camera. And the reason why the timing of this is just so important is, well, next week, at the time of recording this, next week is WWDC. So I'm off to Cupertino. And when you're running around these Apple events and stuff like that, like, I will have my fancy camera with me, but it'll be in my backpack. And if something happens and I just need to quickly capture, the quickest way for me to do that is just to pull out my iPhone and start filming. And I'm going to do everything in Kino next week when I am filming from my iPhone. I did some tests with it this week. I just took a little mini vacation with my girlfriend. We went up to the lake, went jet skiing. That was a lot of fun. That was my first time jet skiing, and that was fun. I was like, vroom, vroom, vroom. Anyways, I won't make it. Sorry.
Oh, I'm picturing it right now. It's happening right in front of my eyes. Wow.
I'll try and minimize my sound effects, but I was definitely vroom, vroom. But no, so Kino is really impressive. I really like it. So it supports Apple Log, which Apple Log is a really impressive log format. You might see this, like, if you ever watch like behind the scenes of movies and stuff like that, you might see like this kind of like washed out, very flat image, and then like they will color it later, and that's so you can like really color it to the way you want it. It gives you a lot of detail. It's kind of like taking a raw photo, essentially. Some really cool features in Kino is, if you don't want to shoot log and go in and color grade all your footage manually later, they have LUTs that are built in. Like, one was made by Tyler Stallman, who is a YouTuber that I really like. He does a lot of really interesting camera stuff and some Apple stuff. But they also made a few other LUTs as well that are like these very stylized kind of looks. So when you're filming, it can bake it in. So that's what your video will look like if you want. It also supports external microphones, which is really important. I just bought the DJI wireless mics for WWDC, so I can. I'm going to try and redo my video that I did last year at WWDC, where I ask a bunch of creators and developers and podcasters and bloggers and all that stuff, like what their favorite features and stuff were announced.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed really doing that video. It was a ton of fun to make that video. So I'm going to try and do that again next week, but next week is going to be very busy, so we'll see what ends up coming out. But I'm really, really excited for that. But yeah, so I got these DJI wireless mics, so I can mic it up properly. The biggest issue with that video last year is the audio was not very good. So this way I can be mic'd and the person I'm talking to can be mic'd. And what's really nice is it has a receiver and it has a USB port on the receiver, or a USB adapter. So you can plug it in right to the side of your iPhone, and the audio gets captured right to that video footage. So it just gets baked in together. I don't have to go back and sync audio or anything like that. And for a video like this, that's very in video production, it's just called run and gun, where you're just like filming, click, start recording, boom, done. Okay, move on to the next thing. Move on to the next thing. You don't have like a big shot list. You're not taking your time, and you're not setting up lights or anything like that. It's run and gun. So that's perfect for this kind of setup. I'm super excited about that. It has a beautiful design, and it's a simple design, but it doesn't have stripped down features. So you can go in and change resolution. You can go in and change frame rate or log or add a LUT or something like that very easily. You can jump between either automatic shutter or manually choosing like shutter speed, or there's actually even an option in there if you prefer like shutter angle versus shutter speed and stuff like that. I know I'm speaking gibberish to some people, but just know it's impressive. But you can just leave it on automatic if you don't even know what that is. And honestly, I know what it is, and I'll probably just leave it on automatic. But yeah, I really love this app. Like I said, I got to test it out a little bit on my vacation. I'm super excited to use it next week. Timing couldn't have been better. I'm going to use it for like all the B-roll and stuff. If there's like a hands-on area, I don't know if there's going to be hardware stuff that's announced. Last 2 years, there's been hands-on areas, and like I just filmed the stuff on my iPhone. I didn't, because like you're like packed in there like sardines. So like setting down your backpack, pulling out a big camera, it's kind of hard to do. So just pulling out your iPhone and filming makes it a lot easier. And it's just a one-time $10 app too. There's no weird weekly subscription fees or anything like that.
That's a great price.
Yeah, it's $10, like perfect. I'm super happy with that. Like it's a professional app. It's an app I will use to make videos, which I in turn make money from. So $10 is nothing, especially like if you were to know how much I spent on my camera. $10 is nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing at all. You mentioned it has like a bunch of LUTs built in. I've played around with the app a little bit too. Can you put your own LUTs in there? Can you have it kind of bake in your own LUTs, or is that not a thing right now?
Yes, I believe you can. I saw somebody do this. I haven't done it. Like I said, I've been on vacation, so I've just kind of been using the app. I haven't like been playing around with the LUTs and stuff, because I usually just film log, which is again that flat profile, and I go in and color grade later because I edit my videos. But from what I understand, what I saw, you can do like Pixelmator photo, and you can build your own LUT for it if you want, which would be really cool. I will verify that, and if you can't, I will cut this out. But I am positive, I'm like 99% sure. Actually, hold on. Let me back up. I have the app right here.
In the meantime, do you know what Kino means?
No idea. What do you know what it means?
Yeah. I believe it's German, and it means cinema.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That's actually really cool. I like that. I thought Kino was a good name, but had no idea what the meaning was. Real-time follow-up. You absolutely can import your own LUTs. You go into settings, grade, and then you scroll to the very bottom, and there is an import from files option.
More real-time follow-up. I asked Perplexity, what does Kino mean? And it said it can mean a gum, a internet slang term from 4chan. That's fun. This third one I actually can't. I don't know if we can say on a clean podcast. And then the fourth one is cinema. So it did get me the answer eventually. But
oh my! Was that Perplexity?
Perplexity, yeah.
Oh, cute doggy.
We got some dogs in the background, as my niece calls them, dogs.
It's good. Bring in the animals. It spikes the views.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
When he comes, I'll try to nab him when he comes back.
Is there Chris? Is there value to using Kino? Do you think, if you don't know anything about all this and you just leave it on automatic?
Yeah, I think if you are somebody that really likes a certain stylized look to your videos and stuff like that, I think this is where the LUTs really come in. If you just use the default camera app, it just gives you a very normal looking look, like that what Kino just calls neutral, like it's there, but like with Kino you can stylize your video, so if you want it to be more stylized. The thing I wanted to mention that I got to mention is that with Kino you can film 4K ProRes 422 at 60 frames per second with Apple Log, and you don't have to use external storage for that. You can just record right to your internal storage. If you do that with the default camera app, you have to have external storage plugged into your iPhone to the USB port in order to film that stuff, because I think Apple's worried about storage concerns, even though you can buy a 1 terabyte phone. Though that stuff gets that stuff will eat up a lot of storage really, really quickly. But Kino lets you store that internally. And one of my favorite features about Kino is it gives you the option to choose between either saving the stuff by default to the Files app or to the Photos app. And for something like this, it lets me break up the two apps. So I think about the camera app for personal stuff. Like if my girlfriend or I are on vacation, I'm just going to film in the camera app. Like I'm just going to film something in the default. It goes right in the Photos app. But if I'm filming my iPads or at an Apple event or something like that, I'm going to use Kino and it goes right into the Files app. So that way it's not muddying up my almost said camera roll, but just the Photos app.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's one of the things that annoys me about shooting raw photos on the iPhone is if I shoot raw, I'm probably going to import it into an editing app and then export a finished photo. And that's what I want to be saved forever in my photo collection. But I have that giant raw file there as well now. So I have like 2 of the files. It's super annoying. So being able to save like those to the Files app and then do whatever you need to do and then move them to your photo collection, that's awesome. And especially, I guess, for your use case where you probably don't want all your B-roll in your Photos app. You probably just want that for Final Cut.
Yeah, exactly. It's I and like if I'm filming on my iPhone, I'm probably going to move it over to my iPad as well. So I want it to just be in the Files app. I can plug an external drive in, copy the footage over, and move it over to the iPad or AirDrop it. Probably not AirDrop it, because if I'm filming 4K ProRes 422 at 60 frames per second, that stuff is going to be huge. So I would use an external storage for that. But the nice thing about this is when I'm filming, I don't have to have a hard drive dangling off of my iPhone in order to film to it. And I actually had some issues. I did something a couple months ago and I was like, oh, I'm just going to film on my iPhone. And I plugged in an external drive I plugged in like this like supposed to be high-speed thumb drive that's like 500 gigs into the side of my iPhone, but it wasn't fast enough. So all the footage was choppy after like 7 or 8 seconds. Like it just started getting choppy because it didn't have enough bandwidth to process all that footage. So Kino, I like that when I go to record, everything stays on the device and then I can move it over afterwards. Now, I do want to point out something. I have been talking about recording in 60 frames per second. I am not a monster, people. I do not put out videos at 60 frames per second, nor 30 frames per second, unlike somebody else on this podcast. I am a 24 frames per second person. But the benefit of shooting 60 frames per second is you could put that in an editor like Final Cut or whatever, and then you could slow that down to 24 frames per second, which is about 40% of the speed, and you get this nice slow-mo clip. So yes. And yes, I was calling out Matt there.
We don't have time to get into another controversy this episode, but I'm very happy with my 30 FPS.
And when we started this podcast, dear audience, Matt was like, oh, I'm going to have to set up my camera to 24 frames per second for this. And I was like, yes, you are. Because this podcast is always going to be 24 frames per second for as long as I edit it.
Sacrifice I'm willing to make.
So, that's kind of it for me. Do you guys have any other questions on Kino?
Yes, I do. And I apologize in advance. Do you know we have an Apple log with us today?
We have an Apple log?
Yeah.
What Apple log?
Birchtree.me. He's right here.
I was like, wait, are you talking about like, is somebody going to come on the podcast from like the camera team or something like that and call me out? Oh, But birch tree.
Wow.
Oh,
Anyway,
that was great. That was great. I love that.
yeah. Is that staying in?
Yes, 100% that's staying in.
Okay, sure.
Oh my god.
I love it. Neelion, what do you have for us this week?
Yeah. All right. This is the first installment, ladies and gentlemen, of a maybe recurrent segment of what I call I don't know if I love hating macOS or if I hate loving macOS. So there we go. This week, and over the past 2 weeks, really, for this podcast, when we record, I wanted to reduce our latency on my end as well. So I wanted to run a wire to my desk. So to be on Ethernet cable, not on Wi-Fi anymore. The issue is my router is all the way on the other end of the apartment. So unless I got I don't know how long cable, that would have been hard. So in the end, today I have what I call a Rube Goldberg Ethernet cable running to my MacBook on my desk. I discovered the magic of Ethernet powerline adapters. I don't know if you are aware of what that is, but I had no idea before.
I've heard of them, but I don't understand them. So I've never been brave enough to use one.
I'm very familiar with them. I used to use them in my IT job for really weird offices that we would have and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm familiar.
All right. So, brief explanation. The idea is you plug in an adapter next to your router or next to wherever your Ethernet, your nearest Ethernet port is. You plug an Ethernet cable between your router and into that adapter, and then you plug another adapter next to where you want your Ethernet to come out, so next to my desk in this case, and another Ethernet cable runs from that into my MacBook. So the idea is that the Ethernet data is running through the walls on your power lines, basically in your electric circuit. And you basically have a wired connection. So I've discovered this magic. It kind of didn't make sense to me. I was like, that doesn't work. That's not possible. But it is apparently, and it's an old thing, a very old thing. I tried setting this up, and it works. I'm really surprised to see that it works. Apparently, after Googling online for about a week before I started going into this, it depends a lot. It hugely depends on your electric circuit. How old is it? How is it set up? If your electric circuit is common with a neighbor or something like that, it can mess things up immensely. In our case, before buying the things, I try to understand my electric circuit, which is stepping out way outside of my comfort zone. And it turns out it should be working. So it worked. But here's the thing, guys. Yeah. macOS comes into play. And I have a bug. And I'm like already trying to take advantage of this audience. And if someone has a solution to this, please reach out. Let me explain. My Ethernet comes out of the wall, out of the adapter, and into my Thunderbolt 4 dock. All right? The issue is that 1 in 10... how do you say that? Once in 10 times? Is that right?
1 out of 10, 1 in 10.
And yeah. Okay, English is hard. When I wake up my Mac from sleep, it doesn't work. macOS doesn't see the Ethernet cable. It's gone. And it will not see it again unless I entirely reboot macOS. So that's annoying. I wanted to throw my MacBook out the window. But I started looking for solutions. Here's what I've got so far. When searching online for this issue, you get all sorts of Reddit threads buried deep into Reddit. I mean, from 5-6 years ago or something like that. The most recent things that you can find online about this are on the Apple discussions forum, on Apple support. This led to nowhere because basically it's just people having the same issue as me or something like my issue, but they never find a real solution. What I've gathered is that most of the time it's related to Thunderbolt. It's related to the fact that macOS is trying to wake up your Thunderbolt dock after sleep, and sometimes it just fails to see your Ethernet cable for some reason, to see your Ethernet port for some reason. And so that's been a bug that exists forever, apparently. And apparently it depends on the docks. So most of the issues have solutions like, okay, I bought another dock and now it's fine. So I went ahead and did that. I did not buy another dock. I don't have enough money, but I have another dock lying around. So I tried that. It's an old Thunderbolt 3 dock. So I tried plugging that in, and same issue. Still happens. What is most frustrating about this is that it only happens after about 10 hours. I can't reproduce it reliably. It's so frustrating. I can't. But then I found another solution, potential solution. Apparently, most Thunderbolt docks, they put their ports to sleep when your Mac goes to sleep, apart from other Thunderbolt ports on the dock, which makes sense. It is logical that your Thunderbolt dock wants to keep the other Thunderbolt ports awake. So what I ended up doing is I added on to this Ethernet, to this Rube Goldberg Ethernet cable, and added a dongle that goes into a second second Thunderbolt port on my dock, and boom, it stopped happening for about 3 days. The bug seemed to be gone, and I was about to record today and tell you that all is fine and this is amazing. No. I found a workaround. But then about, 5 hours ago, it happened again. And the bug is back. It happened again. And I have no idea what is going on. So here are my two other solutions, potential solutions for now, is I'm going to tweak the settings in macOS. If you go into system settings, and if you go into battery, and then you click options, there you have two settings that I think I'm going to try turning off and on and see how it goes over the next few days or weeks. The first one is prevent automatic sleeping on power adapter when the display is off. So that means when my MacBook is plugged in at my desk, it won't go to sleep for real. The display will just turn off. And that's the worst workaround because it means your MacBook never really goes to sleep. Yeah, and it's consuming energy and stuff. The other setting that I'm going to tweak is wake for network access. That's the setting that when your Mac is asleep, it can still wake up sometimes to receive updates in the background, like messages, email, and iCloud stuff. So for now, I'm going to turn this off and see how it goes as well. Please just reach out. Let me know what is going on. I don't want to just be that girl who writes on Reddit and says, okay, it's fixed. I just bought a CalDigit TS4 at 500 euros and now it's good. Please let me know if there's a fix.
What about, and I totally get what you're trying to do here. You just want one cable going into your MacBook. But what about
Yeah.
just taking the Ethernet dongle that's currently plugged into the Thunderbolt dock and just plugging that into your MacBook, so that way you would have two cables at that point, but then you wouldn't have to deal with that port on the Thunderbolt hub going to sleep.
Yeah, I'm going to try that to see. I do not like this solution, but
Yeah, no, I get
it
it,
might
yeah.
help confirm if the issue is really related to the dock or not. So yeah, I'm going to try that.
That's what I was kind of thinking is this
Yeah.
would at least rule out Mac OS or if it was the dock essentially. So
Yeah.
that would probably be like an interesting test. I totally get, like, back in the day when I had a MacBook Pro, like I actually had two Thunderbolt docks, one plugged into another because I had like video stuff and some audio gear and stuff like that, and there just wasn't enough ports in one, so I like daisy chained them together. But I only had one cable going to my MacBook Pro, and I loved that. And the minute you add a second, it feels like your desk just got really messy. So I totally understand not wanting to do that.
Yeah.
It's actually, I have a similar thing. It's not 1 in 10 times. It probably happens 1 in 200 times I plug it in. But every once in a while, I'll plug in my Thunderbolt dock to my Mac, and the display will come back, the Ethernet will work, but my keyboard won't. That's connected over USB. The keyboard just isn't detecting anything, and I unplug and replug, and it works. So, not the internet. That would be more painful. Or actually, it's all painful. But yeah, that is definitely a thing that happens every once in a while. And yeah, the second thing plugged into the Mac is a disaster state, but it might work. The whole magic of Thunderbolt is one.
Matt, you know the solution to the keyboard issue?
Another keyboard?
Yeah. Build another keyboard.
Yeah.
Just get a magic keyboard.
No, thank you.
No, we're good. We're good. As somebody that unfortunately had to buy one to work with the Vision Pro, I was not thrilled about that. That and the fact I own 3 Magic trackpads right now because Apple refuses to make one that works with multiple devices. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's not the challenge this week.
Oh God!
Oh no, it's much better than
that.
Okay, good. Although I'm going to take down this idea, yeah, take a note of this idea, yeah.
Oh no! All right. Does anyone have any other thoughts before we move on to the challenge?
Yeah, sorry. This was meant to be a wholesome segment. I was going to talk about how I'm amazed that powerline Ethernet is a thing. Powerline, data is a thing. But yeah, didn't go so well.
Hey, powerline Ethernet is cool. Like, we'll sidestep the whole Thunderbolt Mac OS issue for a second. And powerline Ethernet is really cool. Like, I've used it before on IT jobs and stuff like that, where we, like, once we had, like, this really old brick building, and there's just absolutely no way we would have been able to run network cabling through the walls. So we found this. It worked great. It worked fantastic, at least as far as I know. I mean, I didn't work in that office, but the users never complained. So, and trust me, when you work in IT, the users will let you know when something doesn't work. But like Tron, I fight for the users. I'm cutting that.
Oh no, please don't.
But yeah, no, Powerline Ethernet's really cool. I've actually been thinking about doing it here in my studio. I really need to get a quote to see if I can get Ethernet run throughout this house here. Because somebody ran network cabling through the house, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's not hooked up to anything. There's no network closet. There's no patch panel or anything. I cannot figure out what this was originally run for and where it ends up. Other than my feeling is like maybe it's just spooled up in the attic somewhere, but I don't really want to crawl up there. Maybe I might have to, but yeah, Powerline Ethernet's cool.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so this week's challenge was my challenge, and I wanted you all to turn your iPad into a gaming computer. And I kind of gave you a few different ways of doing that. It could have just been downloading some games from the App Store, pairing a controller, maybe using an emulator like Delta or PSSPPS. I don't even remember how many. There's a
Nailed
bunch
it.
of P's and a bunch of S's in that, so who knows? But and or like using a game streaming service like Xbox Cloud Gaming or Nvidia GeForce Now. So I want to hear from you all. How did this challenge go for you? Let's start with Matt. How did it work for you?
It went pretty well.
Okay.
I tried 3 different things, and they went great, decently, and did not work. But overall, it was pretty good. So the thing that went great was NVIDIA GeForce Now. I used it once before. I used it when Baldur's Gate 3 came out to play Baldur's Gate on my MacBook because the Mac version wasn't available yet, and it was splendid. It was a delightful way to play, and it worked great. And so I used it on my iPad this time. Just paired a controller. I paired a PS5 DualSense controller with my iPad. Signed up for a month of GeForce Now and was playing a bunch of games. I played Death Stranding. I played Resident Evil 2. I played a little Cyberpunk, and it just worked wonderfully. My iPad stayed nice and cool. I installed GeForce Now as a web app on my home screen, and it was great. Like, it synced with my Steam library, so all my Steam game or most of my Steam games were there. It syncs with your Epic Store library, but you don't actually get to play your games from Epic, which is weird. So I don't really know what the point is there, but it just worked great. And as long as I was on a good Wi-Fi connection, like, the lag was effectively zero. And I'm pretty sensitive to lag in these kind of streaming services, but it was remarkably good. I was super, super impressed by it. So that went amazingly. Then I installed some high-end games on the iPad. I've got the M4 iPad, so I may as well push it to its limits, right? So I tried Assassin's Creed Mirage, which conveniently came out yesterday.
Yeah.
It ran not as well as I expected. It's kind of locked at 30 FPS, and there's a low, medium, high graphics mode, and they seem to just change the resolution, and it's still 30 FPS at every single one. So I think the CPU might be the limit, not the GPU, because the settings seem to stay the same. But anyway,
that's too bad.
Yeah, it ran not great. I tried Resident Evil Village as well, which is my favorite iPad game for like performance testing because it's basically the PC version with the full PC settings menu. So you can change like everything in there. Like, it's not like a normal iPad or iPhone game. Like, you can change how ambient occlusion is done. You can change what upscaler they're using. You can change shadow quality, reflection, like everything is in there. And so you can really kind of tweak it to whatever device. And Resident Evil Village ran quite well. Still can't max it out, but it definitely ran well enough that I would play the whole game that way. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, so did some of those. Also played Dead Cells, which is one of my favorite roguelike games. I also learned that the Castlevania expansion for that game is on the Apple Arcade version of it. So you can play that totally for free, and that is the best Castlevania experience in the last like 20 years. So if you like Castlevania, you should.
Isn't it the only Castlevania experience in the last 20 years?
It also might, yeah. So that went pretty good, and like, I think if I had more time to find more games that worked with a controller, because I prefer playing with a controller than touch controls, I think there's probably some cool stuff I could have found. The last thing I tried that just did not work was I tried to install Moonlight on my PC and then have used that app on the iPad to stream my local PC to my iPad. My iPad just never found my PC, so I couldn't get it to work, unfortunately. But that's kind of the dream, because then I wouldn't have any licensing restrictions. I could just use my local computer to stream any game I want, regardless of whether the developer wanted me to do that on a game streaming service or not. But didn't seem to work for me. I think it works with Vision Pro too, so in theory I could play with on the Vision Pro one of these days. But yeah, that's a thing for me. I'm sure it's a me issue, not a Moonlight issue. But yeah, it went pretty well overall. Outside of that last
Nice.
Interesting.
bummer.
I'm excited to hear that GeForce Now worked out really well for you. Most of my games are through Xbox and stuff like that, so I've tried GeForce Now, but what turned me off was I would have to rebuy all of my games that I already own, and I'm like, "Ugh, I just don't. Let's." And I know there are some Xbox games on GeForce Now, but it's
Yeah.
not a lot. It's
Yeah,
not a
so-
ton.
If you use Game Pass, none of those games come over, but you can sync your Xbox library. I only own 2 games on Xbox, Forza Horizon 5 and Flight Simulator. And I don't think Flight Simulator worked, but Forza Horizon 5 did. So
Yeah, I know. I think Forza was the game that I played on GeForce Now because it synced over from like my Xbox purchase of it synced over. But I'm also one of those people that really loves Xbox achievements, so I don't really want to give those up. So I'm kind of waiting. Well, we'll get to it in a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, so I have a win and I have a fail.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the fail so that I can end on the win. And the common denominator between the two is that I'm going to act today as the EU ambassador. And I wanted for this challenge to go all in on side loading.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Matt and I are just sitting over here jealous, like, where's our side loading?
Yeah, but here's the thing, it doesn't work with the iPad yet, the legal side loading. Yeah, so I had to go the old way. Do you guys know UTM?
No.
No, I don't
No?
think so. That sounds vaguely familiar. Like I kind of remember something called that, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, UTM is a virtual machine app for the iPad and iOS as well. And for the Mac too, I think. Yeah. So you can sideload UTM on your iPad and you can run a virtual machine in there. You can install any Linux distributions you like, or you can install Windows.
Oh.
The latest versions of Windows will not run great. You should not try those. But I tried to install Windows XP. I tried to install Windows XP because I wanted to play, like in the old days, SimCity 3000, my favorite game at the time.
Nice.
That's awesome.
But as I said at the beginning, it's a fail because it's such a rabbit hole. This app, UTM, is such a rabbit hole. And maybe I could have gotten it to work after 3 weeks spent on this. I don't know. But the issue is that it's so fiddly to find the right configurations for your virtual machines. And Windows XP, I got it installed. It worked. But oh my God, it was laggy. And it's Windows XP. There are emulators in the web browser that run Windows XP, right? So I'm not sure if it's a limitation of iPadOS. Yeah?
I was just gonna say Windows XP is not a very intensive OS.
Yeah,
it's
not at all.
I mean, it's 32-bit. It's not even 64-bit.
Yeah, it might be related to something iPadOS limitation something,
Probably.
but I'm not sure. The way I side-loaded it is via AltStore. So the old way. So you install Alt Server on your Mac, and then you install AltStore on your iPad, and the two are linked over Wi-Fi, and then you can sideload apps this way. And there is support here for just-in-time compilation, which means, if I understand this right, that UTM can take advantage of the full performance or something like that of the iPad. But still, it was really hard to get a decent performance. I still went ahead and installed SimCity 3000. The game launches, and
Nice.
I got started on a map, started placing roads, but oh my god, iPadOS something something, iPadOS something something. The
Oh
app
no.
crashed so many times. I lost so many cities after just 30 minutes of playing. So, yeah, it worked technically, but it was a bit of a fail. Yeah. So moving on to the win then. Still sideloading things I discovered a few months ago, and it was a great opportunity this challenge to try it again. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's called Pojav Launcher. I'm going to pronounce it in the French way, Pojav Launcher, and it's a launcher that you can sideload on your iPad, and it runs the Java edition of Minecraft natively. Yeah, it's really cool. This one works so well, and I'm so happy. You can get started really fast. It's basically the presets in there are awesome. You don't have to tweak too much to get it working, and yeah, you're playing Minecraft. You can pair a mouse and a keyboard, and you're playing the vanilla experience of Minecraft, the Java edition of Minecraft, and it works really well. I'm really happy about this. As the Minecraft players know out there, there is another version of Minecraft. They are both updated in parallel. The other version is Bedrock Edition. Bedrock Edition is a complete rewrite of Minecraft, and it's the version of Minecraft that you find on consoles and on iPadOS. It's in the App Store, but it's a version of Minecraft that is super weird. It doesn't support mods, and some things about this version of Minecraft is a bit weird when you've been playing the Java edition of Minecraft for 10 years. So yeah, I'm so happy to have found a way to play the Java edition on iPadOS. Really good. I would recommend.
Interesting. I have only spent maybe 20 minutes in my whole life playing Minecraft. I kind of missed that. Like it just it never really kind of appealed to me, but I totally get why, as somebody that literally, if you look around my studio, is full of Legos and stuff like that, I totally get the appeal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. But I might have to try that if we can ever get that side loading. Well, I guess I can do the old school alt store way, especially now that I have a
Yeah,
Mac Mini. So
that's what I did. It works.
I might have to give that a shot and give that a try, because that does sound interesting. So for me, I have been really trying hard to make my iPad a gaming computer the last couple of weeks. I have a bunch of travel happening. We had my girlfriend's mom staying with us for a little while. Just a bunch of I'm just not going to have access to my TV for a while, and I play a lot of games on my Xbox. I sit in front of my Xbox, in front of the TV, play games that way. That's traditionally how I've done it. But just this summer in particular is going to be a little wild, and I like to play video games as a way to de-stress from work. It's kind of like my way of just ending my day, and kind of, it's not, if I wasn't able to play games, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's also like it's my happy place. So I have been looking into turning my iPad into a gaming computer. So I was kind of inspired by our friend Federico Vitici. He basically turned his 13-inch iPad Pro into a Nintendo Switch-like device. So I went looking all over the internet for a handheld controller, so something that plugs into the side of the iPad and you can hold it in your hand. And I couldn't find anyone that supported the 13-inch or 12.9-inch iPad Pro. The best I could see is they all tapped out at 11 inches. And I was like, well, that's no good, because I'm not going to go with the smaller iPad. I'm going to be the big iPad guy. So I followed Federico's route and got the GameSir G8 controller. And then I found an extension kit on Etsy. And basically what this does is you have to
Mm.
open up the controller. Like you have to be careful and you have to be comfortable unscrewing it. You're going to ruin this controller. Like you're not going to be able to just take this extension kit out and put it back and stuff like that. Like you are going to modify this controller, and this is just the way this controller is going to be. So it doesn't work with my iPhone anymore or anything like that. It's just for my iPad. But it fits my 13-inch iPad just fine. The extension kit does a really nice job of like making it look like a all-in-one piece, but it's just like a 3D printed. It's actually 2 pieces and a bunch of screws. And it just extends it out. You don't have to replace the springs or any of the extension stuff in the actual controller, but you do have to open the controller up. And when you open the controller up, be very careful because there's a ribbon cable in there, and you will break it if you open it up too quickly. I might have ended up spending like 2 hours trying to repair that. So yeah, that was not fun. But once I got this all working, it was great. I've been playing a bunch of emulated games on my iPad. Before anyone says anything, they're all games I own. They're all stuff I turned into ROMs myself. I like I said at the beginning of or like I said when we were talking about in the AI segment, I'm a big believer if you're a creative person, you should get paid for your work. I'm not gonna, yeah. So anyways, before anyone says anything. But I've been using Delta, and I'm going to see if I can get it right. I have it on my notes. PPSSPP. So Delta is obviously the really popular Nintendo emulator for Game Boy games, Nintendo 64, NES, Super Nintendo, stuff like that. I've turned a bunch of my Game Boy games and Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that into ROMs. So I was playing the couple of Super Mario Brothers games, some Pokemon games. Like I've just been kind of bouncing around, just revisiting a lot of my old favorite Game Boy games that I just haven't been able to play in years. And then on PPSSPP, which is a PSP emulator, if you couldn't figure it out by the title, I've been playing Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lion. I believe is that one. I get all the Final Fantasy names mixed up. They're confusing, but Final Fantasy Tactics. If you have never played Final Fantasy Tactics and you like turn-based tactical style games. Yes, it's so much fun. So much fun. So I've been playing that with the GameSir controller and just kind of been sitting back. And then, like Matt, I've also been streaming games as well. I've been using the Xbox Cloud streaming game service, Xbox Cloud, whatever it's called. Who knows? I don't know why they just don't call it Xbox, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going on a tangent. Cutting that. But the problem with the Xbox Cloud game streaming is it's not very good because it's not a native app. It's just running through the web, and it's very laggy. If you just run the native experience, it's very laggy. It's low resolution. It doesn't look great. It doesn't feel great, especially if you're playing like a shooter game or something like that. It just doesn't work well. So in our Mac Stories Discord, I actually got recommended Better xCloud, which is like this whole script that you can install on an iPad, iPhone, Mac, whatever. And it kind of strips Xbox Cloud streaming a little bit. It kind of forces it to be a certain resolution, hit certain frame rates, strips a few features and stuff like that. But it works flawlessly once you do that. I don't know why Microsoft isn't just doing this already, but it works flawlessly. I had maybe 1 or 2 lag moments in really high populated areas. I was playing Fallout, so when you go into Diamond City, I had like one really annoying like half a second lag moment, but other than that, it was perfect. It was great. Now the resolution isn't high. It doesn't look amazing. It's not running at like 60 frames per second or anything like that. But when I really wanted to play Fallout and I didn't have access to the TV, this worked. This did a good job. So I think I will probably stick to native games on the iPad for the most part for games that I'm playing. Either using emulators like Delta or PPSSPP, or playing games like Divinity Original Sin 2, which is an amazing RPG game. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 are on the iPad. Those are some of my all-time favorite games. So there are some really good games out there. Obviously, it doesn't have a massive library, but I would like it to be better. I'm kind of still waiting. No Man's Sky is still supposed to be coming, right? Or no, No Man's Sky is out, isn't it?
It's out on the Mac. I don't know if the iPad version came out.
I remember this rumor. It feels like a rumor.
They announced it at like WWDC like 2 years ago or something like that. And I could have sworn it was supposed to come to the iPad too.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. It's not there yet.
Okay. All right. Anyways, that's a game I've had fun playing on the console quite a bit. Like I actually really enjoy that game. So I would love it to come to the iPad. But all this being said, I have started to look at building a gaming PC specifically for Moonlight.
Ooh.
I know Matt said it didn't work for him. I've heard a bunch of people that said it works for them. Again, going back to our friend Federico Vitici, I believe this is how he's playing games. And I saw him say he's getting like 4K 60 streaming to his iPad. And I'm like, yes, I want that. I want that very much. So I'm like, okay, I could build a gaming PC. I haven't built a PC in years, like 15 years, something like that.
It's so easy to do. You could totally do it. If you dealt with a ribbon cable, that's as hard as anything building a PC is these days, I think. It's mostly plugging things in.
And a lot of, there's so many websites out there too that are like, okay, just get these parts if you want to hit these targets for these kinds of games and stuff like that. So I'm seriously considering that. It will be an after WWDC, probably sometime before beta embargoes and stuff come up, when everything's like just quiet, that I might do that. But yeah, I'm happy. But I know the iPad could be an even better gaming computer, especially with these M4 iPads. The OLED display is absolutely just gorgeous. It is stunning. But the game library issue, like the fact that there just aren't a ton of native AAA games or native new games even, is a huge bummer.
Yeah, it's getting better though. I mean, Apple's definitely making a push with some of these devs, right? Assassin's Creed
big time.
Mirage just came out months after, like half a year after the original one, but still. But like the Resident, like there are some like genuinely AAA games you can play on your iPad now, which you couldn't do before. So it's better, but I totally hear you that it's still the exception, not the rule, that the games you want to play, the really high-end games, are available on the iPad.
Yeah, like I'm kind of surprised. Like at least like Apple should be going after games that are older. Like the fact that there isn't Skyrim on the iPad is kind of weird. Skyrim's everywhere. Skyrim is like the new Doom. Like you could play Skyrim on your toaster. Like
yeah. It's the Netflix of games. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Apple hasn't gone to Bethesda and been like, hey, why don't you port Skyrim over or something like that? So Apple and gaming has always been weird. It's weird being, an Apple person and being into gaming, because it always usually meant you either had to have a gaming PC or consoles or something like that. But I can see we're kind of like on this cusp of something happening, but I think it's going to be a lot of third-party stuff like Moonlight and stuff like that. That's really going to be the push in order to get the iPad to be a real gaming computer.
And I thought I was going deep with my site loading and Windows XP on my iPad.
No, you definitely went the deep. You installed Windows XP on an iPad. You went the deepest. You win. You round of applause for Neilion.
Yes. I'm
you
happy
win.
that.
Not even close.
You win. Anyone that goes through and installs another OS on an iPad, I think that's just like the automatic win for the challenge.
It's a sight to behold to see Windows XP booting on your iPad, believe me.
Oh man, I would immediately try and install like the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games. Oh, I love those games as a kid, but I don't know. You got to have a joystick, so anyways.
True.
So Neilion, I am so nervous. You have a challenge for us this week, and in our document it just says redacted. So what are you gonna force Matt and I to do this week?
All right. So don't worry, guys. It's not super invasive. I'm just going to ask you, and I will do this too, of course, as per the rules, to revamp your dock.
Ooh.
So
dock on what device?
Yes.
On your main device. So, Chris, I expect you to revamp your dock on your iPad. and I will revamp mine on my Mac. And by revamp, I mean just do anything to it that you want. Experiment with your dock. On the Mac, you can maybe place it on the right side of the screen, on the correct side of the screen, which is at the bottom, and you can decide. Move around the icons, experiment with new icons. I know I've seen people on YouTube who, do you know about these in iPad influencers that are not Chris, that are like full into TikTok vibes, aesthetics, and they use their Apple Pencil to do everything on the iPad, and they use custom widgets on their home screens and with beautiful pictures and all custom icons. And maybe you don't know what I mean, but yeah.
No, I totally do. I'm totally with you. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and my brain's already turning as to how I can do this.
And what I meant to say is I've seen some of these people, they don't have any icons in their dock on the iPad. They removed every icon from their dock. And they just have the 3 recent apps, in the dock. They just have this. And it just shuffles around all the time because, yeah.
Oh, no. Okay.
So that's just an idea.
Okay, so this challenge could not have come at a stranger time, because literally after we stop recording this episode, I am filming a what's on my home screen and what's on my lock screen video. Oh, no. So for that video, because I literally have the script written and this is how I've been using my iPad for over a year now, I'm going to keep it the same for that video. But after I am done filming that video, I will remove everything and try your way. But I don't. I really like the way my home screen's set up.
Yeah, you do you. You do you.
Okay. I think I'm going to do my phone.
Oh, that's cheap. You're copping out, Matt. Come on. There's only 4 icons down there.
No. But one of those icons has been there for 15 years, and I haven't moved it since.
No, I think it's Fidget.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I think I can do something clever here. If I can't do something clever, I'll change my dock and put it on the bottom, which is wrong.
Yeah, because the dock on the Mac, even though I'm not a Mac person, we all know the dock belongs on the left-hand side of the Mac.
That is correct.
Do we agree on something, Matt? Do we just agree on something?
I think we agreed on something, but all 3 of us, I don't think, agree.
No, I don't think all 3 of us will. That's what I like about this show, is I highly doubt all 3 of us will agree on anything very often. I think it'll be pretty rare when we all agree on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for some context, I also have my very specific ways with my Mac dock.
Okay.
So it's going to be hard, just to let you know. And I'm going to do my macOS dock.
That's what I was going to ask, is what device were you going to do? Okay, so yeah. Actually, that's actually a perfect kind of way of doing it, because if Neon, you're going to do the Mac, I'm going to do the iPad, and Matt will do the iPhone, so then we can all have the different devices. I mean, unless somebody wants to do the dock on the Apple TV,
Oh no, that would cause conflict in my house.
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't do that. That would actually cause issues in my relationship. That would not be. That would not be good. No shared devices.
Agreed.
But I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm gonna film my video first, because this is the way I've been using my iPad, and I have very particular things. But I have a couple of ideas to mix it up. I'm not sure I'm gonna like it, but I do have some ideas on how I can mix things up.
Yeah, just an advice: take screenshots of your.
Oh yeah.
So you can restore it in a week. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll take screenshots and put images and stuff in the show notes and stuff, so people can see what we can do too. So we'll all do a before and after. How about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just noticed the good thing about mine is I've had Perplexity in my iPhone dock, and I was going to remove that anyway, so I'm 1/4 of the way there.
Well, that about does it for this week's episode of Comfort Zone. I am very much looking forward to next week, because we'll be recording after WWDC. So who knows? Maybe we might get some stuff that actually helps us with the challenge next week. Who knows? But I want to say thank you to Mac Stories for hosting us. They've been great. It's been great to work with them. You can find all of the stuff that we talked about in the show notes of this episode. So if you you listen to any podcast player, you can swipe over and see the show notes. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you might have to go to macstories.net or open up the audio one. We're still building the channel history here, so we actually aren't able to post links in the description of videos right now, which is YouTube.
Google
yeah.
and the open web.
Yeah, it's so weird. So we're not able to post links in the description just yet. We're still building the channel history, and then we'll be able to put all the links there. But Matt, say goodbye to everyone, and yeah.
Goodbye. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Neon, say goodbye.
Au revoir.
Goodbye, everybody.